So yeah, tell us about Marilyn.
Anyway, we're talking about Elvis. Elvis had, and I think he had some teeth done. Not as much as Buddy Holly did. You look at the classic pictures of Buddy Holly and you think of horn rimmed glasses. I think that's what you call horn rimmed glasses and teeth. But you should have seen his teeth before he got. Well, you should have seen him because he kept his mouth shut. He was a handsome looking guy. He wasn't geeky the way the glasses made him look. But his teeth were horrendous. I've only seen one case. You know that one foreman called Ron.
Mm.
You never seen teeth like his, except for Buddy Holly's. Then you've never seen Buddy Holly's. Anyway, good casting. And you know, you never ask a person to do what they can't do, so it doesn't matter that you didn't do anything. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what good coaching is. That's what good management is. Not that there's very good coaching out there. Not that there's good management out there. Deeming, the management guru, brought quality management to the Japanese, and the Japanese ultimately brought it to the rest of the world. Deeming was imposed on the Japanese, I think, right after World War II. And he was American. He was American, something like an engineer. It took the Americans decades to catch up with the Japanese who'd been taught by an American. It's just stupid. I don't think they ever really caught up. They finally learned that they had to do something like quality control management or whatever when the Japanese, I think at one time the Japanese per capita GDP was 50% higher than the American per capita GDP. It kind of moderated a bit, and that's partly because I think the Americans learned a little bit from the Japanese, who themselves had learned from American deeming, but the Americans had been, or the Japanese had been, taking advantage of the Americans during the Cold War, putting tariffs on American goods, and the Americans weren't responding in kind or on kind. After the end of the Cold War, the Americans started responding in kind. The Japanese, for example, had huge tariffs on American rice, and I don't think geographers were making it up when they were saying, economists, they're saying California, not America so much as California, could have produced all the rice Japan needed, and more cheaply, even with transport costs. The Japanese considered that it was essential for them to maintain control over at least their food supply and stuff like that.
Well, I think that it is important.
It is, but Japanese consumers paid for it.
Well, really, ultimately, I mean, you could do all you want about trying to control your food supply or whatever, but if it's propped up artificially by another country in terms of whatever, not whatever, then it doesn't work out because it's not true. It's not. You know what I mean?
No.
Okay.
The
Their
best
population is too high. They can't possibly produce all the food that they need, given their population. The oceans are getting stripped bare. What are they going to do when they've already stripped out everything from the ocean?
They're one of the main reasons why oceans are
Exactly.
getting stripped bare.
Now, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's better that they get food cheaply from wherever they can get it, instead of stripping the oceans bare and stuff like that. They are actually doing something about their population. They're actually controlling it, and you'll notice that you never hear about it.
Well, you're right. They're doing a better job than a lot of...
The Japanese, I don't think, let anyone in from elsewhere.
Well, they can't afford to. They don't have the space.
Well, Europe can't afford to either.
No, they can't.
They've got...
and frankly, neither can Canada.
Neither can Canada.
We don't have the space
We
given
don't have,
our climate.
given our climate and geography, like what is it, topography in BC, it's similar to Japan. There's very little land for people to live on, much less to grow crops on in British Columbia.
And I mean, you can just force people into cities. Well, there's not enough. You look at this harvest that I have here, and you're thinking, oh, well, that's so much food. I mean, that's so much more than.
It's not a year's supply.
It's not.
Just for us.
You know, even if I can everything,
yeah,
it's still, we're going to go through this in the winter. And this is a lot of tomatoes. And this is certainly, we can't live on tomatoes alone. Nobody can. So as much as I've been trying to live on tomatoes as much as possible for myself. Like I'll make James a fancier meal with tomatoes. But for me, I'm trying to eat like a couple pounds of tomatoes a day with whatever I'm eating, you know, and it's yeah, it gets to be less of a pleasure when you force yourself to eat even orange lip-smacking grape tomatoes, which are a pleasure to eat. But when you're eating that many, it's not quite as enjoyable.
Anyway, what you do with a population like Japan, I don't know. You gotta feed those folks, and you gotta feed them at reasonable rates. It's when you've got democracies, you hope that they don't go rogue like the United States. Each passing day seems to do more and more of, but you've actually got to depend on other countries producing stuff for you and you sending stuff to them. It's called comparative advantage by the economists. So if, like,
Do anything with you.
we can't in Canada produce oranges for ourselves, so we depend on Florida for oranges. We can't produce almonds. We can't produce this, that, and the other thing. We can produce grain, but Americans can produce grain. So what we got to do is sell to the Americans raw materials, like for their industries and so on and so forth. So,
but it would be better if we were using our raw materials for our industry.
I don't know if we've got the requisite population to be churning out huge, big industries. We've got that kind of in southern Ontario, but it would be hard for us to have a big, and there are other factors as well, like shipping and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, I can see how the orange example is a great one. But say IKEA furniture, it's crap. And we would be better off not buying our IKEA furniture and making our own wooden furniture rather than buying like IKEA cardboard crap or whatever and pretending it's furniture.
Yeah, it's they've got forest industry there in Sweden. They're moving elsewhere. You know, like the guy I sat next to coming into the Soviet Union was an IKEA business guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's really a sales guy. He was there. I mean, the Russians have huge forestry, so what they would have been doing is moving in their expertise and trying to exploit Russian
Definitely.
raw materials.
Yeah.
So,
but then is it better for Russia to let IKEA have their raw materials so that Russians can buy IKEA furniture?
it's better than what they've got. So it's when we landed in Moscow airport, I don't know, Sheremetyevo or Metsko, whatever it is, we're sitting there in the plane and we're watching suitcases come down one of those conveyor belts and then they go around or whatever. they come down and they get on something where they go around. So we saw a suitcase come down and it fell off the conveyor belt. Someone didn't think, they had a conveyor belt, but nothing to keep the suitcases on the conveyor belt. All it was needed was a little wall there. And the guy just turned to me. I guess he'd been there before. Welcome to the Soviet Union, is what he said.
Yeah.
So when you don't have the engineering and management, and I guess we really don't have it here. We just don't have. Should we be doing that? Of course, as much as we can, but we've got kind of like a branch plant mentality. We had it before. Brian Mulroney, they called him branch plant Brian, hard to say. Before World War II, it was basically with the Brits. Now, after World War II, the Americans started taking over. It's our capitalists tend to be hewers of wood and drawers of water. We'll hew the wood and draw the water. You do stuff with it. You bottle the water and you make furniture out of the wood or whatever.
Yeah.
We've got problems.
We do, and it'd be better for us to have an educated population of engineers and whatnot, so that we can.
Yeah, the big trouble is, how are you going to encourage people to do that? When I took analysis, this is 5th year analysis, which is kind of like calculus on steroids. I was the only native-born Canadian in the whole show. I was just sitting there. There's a guy from China, a guy from Iran, and a guy from India. And then the guy who was teaching was from Iran. American Canadians don't want to do that. What they wanted to do in the 80s, along with the Americans, was become management. Everyone wanted to get an MBA. What, a master's? When you can get a PhD and actually help people out, presumably, do some research. MBA's the whole idea, especially with Goldman Sachs. They're the flunkies who got us into 2008, along with the Republican Party. The big economic meltdown that affected the United States first and then spread to the whole world like a plague. And everyone is talking about MBAs, but particularly Goldman Sachs. They're the smartest guys in the room. Not if I'm there. And it's not even close, folks. MBA. That's a master's. The last time I felt any undue respect, I mean, I got respect for people who get masters. I got respect for people who get bachelors, but they've got to understand their place in the pecking order of things. Now, I don't judge a person. I don't judge myself. I've just got a bachelor's. Back then, it was 1982. They were saying today that's when Trivial Pursuit was invented. And we were playing Trivial Pursuit at a party. And there were 2 guys who worked at the museum. That's where I worked. It was a party at someone's place. It's in this neighborhood. But it was for people who were at work and then their spouses and stuff like that. So there were 2 guys with masters at the museum, and then one guy who was the spouse of one of the women who worked there, and he taught at the college. He had a master's. He's a smart enough guy. But I think at that point in time, I just got my bachelor's, maybe 1981. Everyone wanted to be on my team. Everyone wanted to be on my. It didn't matter who was on my team. There were high school kids working. This was, I guess, at the end of the summer.
Well, I can tell you one thing. You definitely don't want to play against James, because he is very competitive. He very much needs to win. Needs to win the game.
At any rate, that's kind of not really irrelevant to the discussion here, which was there were high school kids. Eventually, I got paired with, I don't even know if she was in grade 12. And we beat everyone, beat the hindquarters up of everyone. Didn't matter who the other teams were and stuff like that. So that's at the last. I was going, there are 3 master's degrees here, and I'm the master of them all. I was just a young pup then. and it's gotten more and more pronounced, the difference. I mean, PhDs, it's just that way. I mean, I respect what they've got, but you know, I had a brother who just didn't give me the proper respect.
I would have loved
Finally,
if
I
your
said to
brother
him,
had
"I'm your superior.
lived, 'cause
I'm your superior. I'm your superior." It was,
you
he
guys
said
were
so
really
stupid.
fighting at the end.
No. He was fighting me. It was a one-way thing. He kept on saying stupid, stupid, stupid things to me. Stupid personal things. I'd say something about, they say don't discuss religion and politics. It'd be more like he'd say some stupid thing, and then I'd correct him. I mean, you got to correct people when there are problems with fact. You know, there's all sorts of room for interpretation, but just plain facts are kind of crazy. But he'd be saying all sorts of stupid things like he knew more about a particular religion because he taught students of that religion. I mentioned that to professors, people out at university, and their eyes go crossed. They clang when their eyes go crossed, and their jaws drop and bounce several times. It's just stunning. You can't say stupid things like that.
Oh, I have a tomato over there. I have to worry.
And I'm not telling the professors what one professor told me about my knowledge of that particular religion. The professor said, and he specialized in that religion, your level of knowledge of this particular religion is a grad school level. So you can't go around saying stupid, stupid things like my brother was saying to me. It's absolutely stunning. So it's like saying Poland was fighting against Germany in 1939. You know, it was he constantly kept on attacking me. You can't go around doing that and having me not defend myself. You know? It's not. It was a one-way attack.
There we go.
Now, understand, he never actually heard about. I mean, I'm mad at him for dying because I wanted to confront him with what all the professors of all the religions in religious studies.
About 33 pounds today.
Well, I knew it was
So
more.
yeah, it's a record. All right. Well, we are supposed to be talking about Marilyn Monroe, though. I don't know how this got on. Anyway, we have another 11 minutes to try to talk about Marilyn Monroe, the documentary, or the movie that we watched, sorry.
So I didn't know there were secrets. And this might have to do with stuff being hidden. Because when I was a kid,
About Joe DiMaggio?
yeah, never heard about it. But
But
it shows
it
him
sorta
slapping her in the face. Wasn't the first thing? Slapping her in the face. That was the first thing. Maybe you didn't see that part. And I'm going, wow. It's not kosher to hit a woman at all. Much less
so much
going
smaller.
for the face.
Yeah.
And then
But
after she did the
I
scene,
don't
I think
know.
it's from Some Like It Hot, where she's standing over a subway thing and her skirt's flying and so on and so forth. Apparently he just beat her up. And they had someone saying to Marilyn, they're trying to get her made up for more scenes in the movie because it's on her back, on her arms. Well, he could have killed her. And when it's an actual beating, the person should be in jail.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
But, you know, that being said, there are cultures that are just, I don't know if it's nature or nurture or maybe a little bit of both.
We're going to say it's
But
nurture.
I'm going to hope it's nurture.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I've seen that the people on the equator tend to be more aggressive. And it's so, but I don't know, that might be a nurture thing too. It just might, anyway. But, and So anyway, he did seem to love her.
I'm going to say, we've talked about
The
this
love seemed
culture
genuine.
before. I'm not going to talk about Italians as a race. I'm going to talk about their culture. We were careless about letting them in. The culture is not friendly towards women. No culture really is, but it is way worse than the typical Protestant culture. That's politically incorrect. Well, too bad.
Yeah.
It's just the facts. And
Well, that's that.
they let in the mafia. It's stunning. Not just in the United States, here in Canada. I've talked before about a guy I worked with who was a big fan of Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. Couldn't read, couldn't drive, or at least he couldn't read English. Had no business being here, and he was let in. Crazy stuff. It was back in the 1980s. I don't know how long. He spoke with an accent. No business being here. Anyone who's like that has no business being in a democracy. And he actually threatened me with killing me at work. I was so patient that I didn't report him to management. I should really have. It would have been cause for immediate dismissal. Really, it should have been prosecuted. That's a crime to threaten someone. It was a big long stick with a big nail in it. It was saying, "You do that again, I'll stick this into your head." Just a murder threat.
Boy, we really went to town on that thing.
Anyway, Joe DiMaggio, definitely Italian. His last name, I think, means of May. So maybe one of his ancestors born in May. Could be wrong though. Real name is probably Giuseppe. Anyway, how much time? 2 minutes?
6.5.
Anyway, this movie comes recommended. Kind of dismissive of John Kennedy. And when it comes to his relationships with women, it maybe wasn't dismissive enough. The story goes that Jack had been away for a while, maybe on a holiday somewhere, comes back, and I don't know, plumping up the pillows. She says to one of the servants, she's found something in a pillowcase sitting on a pillow. Whose panties are these? They aren't my size. No. Right there on the White House bed, I guess. JFK was cheating on Jackie, stuff like that. Didn't talk much about Robert, but Robert Kennedy had his fling or so with Marilyn. Knew about that stuff. Anyway, comes recommended. You can see how nasty Hollywood the Hollywood system was. Seems like every guy was using her. I don't think, and gals too. I don't think anyone really cared for her. I don't think it made a difference. The movie suggests that death was accidental. Could have been. It shows her just sloshing pills down. That's not sloshing drinks down, but just pouring pills. I don't know. I think she committed suicide, but I don't know. Some people, when they're on dope, I call it suicide on the installment plan. Suicide on credit. So I get that from a French title. I think it's from Céline Mort mort à crédit or mort à crédit. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but death on credit. I prefer death on the installment plan. I understand, folks, you might not think you're committing suicide when you're start taking too much alcohol, start messing around with prescription and non-prescription drugs when you're a teenager. Might not happen to you. It's like Mick Jagger was able to survive that sort of stuff. Take a little bit of cocaine here and there when it's fashionable. But you're risking ending up like Keith Richards almost did, like Keith Moon did, like David Crosby almost did, Phil Lesh almost did, Jerry Garcia did. It's not cool to commit suicide on the installment plan. Look at a picture of Keith Moon. I don't know how old he was. Maybe I don't think he's even 40. The party the night before he died. Not cool. Look at Jerry Garcia. Well, he never looked cool. Yeah. Anyway, movie comes recommended. Don't buy it. Rent it out. Get it from the library, whatever. I don't know. Do they rent movies out anymore? Do they have rental agencies for movies? Like, I guess you can get them off of Netflix or something like that. Not that I recommend it. Deal with those scumbugs. So stay tuned. I thought I was going to get to this, but I'm not quite finished this. You believe it? I've got 14, 15 pages of, aside from the appendices.
I can't believe you're that close to being done that one.
Yeah, actually, like I say, I've still got about 100 pages for the appendices, but that's stunning. That's an achievement because this does not come recommended. And you're going to be dealing with what is history. I haven't finished this one, but this is in Russian.
Oh.
But it actually mentions this idiot, H. Carr, 4 different times, right?
Oh.
So this is Soviet justice under Stalin. That's what this says here, right? It was written in English originally by this guy called Peter Sullivan, and then translated into Russian a couple of years later, 1996, 1998, if I get this correctly. And this is an antidote to this.
I'm surprised you didn't talk about Miller at all. With
who?
Marilyn.
Arthur Miller, a horrible person. You know, like if you're a wimp, don't go around marrying someone like this. You know, like, because you're going to feel inferior. And then, of course, he had to make her inferior.
That's
you see what I'm
probably
saying?
what that was, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, inferiority complex.
Yeah.
So, can you imagine it looks like they portrayed him pretty accurately in terms of looks and stuff like that. Can you imagine anyone wimpier?
Yeah.
Aside from Pee Wee Herman or something like that? Anyway, how much time in it?
22 seconds.
22 seconds. So stay tuned, particularly you folks who, after 2008, you know, I was saying there's no excuse for capitalism anymore, particularly the Republican version of it. And then what happened is everyone was going, hey, let's go back to communism on the left wing. And of course, you got people turned to